welcome to a special off-season edition of the Aubrey Strong Sauce SEC Football Hour. Of course, I am your favorite OG sawed-off microphone dude. I, of course, am your special off-season host, Michael Lawson, a.k.a. The Strong Sauce. We appreciate you guys joining us. We're going to be here with you till 11 today. It's a special off-season edition of the Aubrey Strong Sauce SEC Football Hour. Why? Well, because Tennessee has gone through another coaching search. They've finally hired another athletic director. They've hired another, as Big Country comes in. We're on camera, by the way, so watch your thing. They've got us on YouTube, Twitter. Anyway, so it's a special edition. It's been a while since we've been in station. Big Country Sam Bowerman, of course, is my ride or die. We're living like hogs, living like dogs. We appreciate you finally joining us there, Sam Bowerman. Yeah, nice. We're going to be here with you at 11. Mad Dog 2020, we appreciate you being on the board. What do we have after this thing at 11 o'clock? What are we going to run into?
That's a good question.
All right. So, as you can tell, we've got everything together. Sam, I appreciate you joining us today. Very good show. We've got Blake Topmeyer, the lead beat writer for your beloved Tennessee Vols, Sam, up there for the Knox News Sentinel. He's going to give us the inside heat on everything that's going on and has been going on with that search. It's going to be interesting to see Big Country, his thoughts not just on the hire, but the inner workings of the search. I know this search has been a little bit different than others in the sense that there weren't as many leaks. It wasn't as drawn out.
Yeah.
It didn't seem as messy as some of the other searches, certainly the last one, bringing in a guy from Maryland that had some ignominious things in his past. Big Country, I know you were not a favor of that guy.
Well, you know.
So Blake Topmeyer at 10:30. We look forward to talking to him from Knox News Sentinel, the UT beat writer up there, and getting in. And we're going to take your calls. This is something that we don't normally do. If boys and girls out there in listener land, normally if you recognize my voice, it's because we are part of the official game day coverage of your beloved Tennessee Vols on game day when the Vols are playing. On Saturdays, we're doing this as a special just because of the coaching search, and it's a big one. This is I kind of tweeted this out earlier. This is the biggest variation or biggest variant coaching hire in terms of scheme, in terms of everything that Tennessee usually does. Like the style, the flavor, the form of what Tennessee football is. This is such a variation and different in terms of scheme and everything. Really, in the last 60 years before Johnny Majors, I'm not going to go back to General Nealon or any. I mean, football was different back then.
Yeah.
But I mean, man. Way different hire. Josh Heupel, of course, is the new head coach. He's basically bringing 2/3 of the UCF staff, 3/4 of the offensive staff from UCF up to Tennessee. So that's kind of a different thing. Tennessee, I don't think, has ever transplanted an entire athletic department up to or football program up to there to see if it'll work. That's going to be something new. We'll talk about that during the hour. And then, of course, some other things. There have been some huge amount of personnel turnover. And there are some positives and negatives. We're going to get into all of that. One of the things that we're going to do this hour, though, boys and girls out there in listener land, is take your calls. We normally don't do that because it's only an hour. It's a part of game day. And we try to bring you interviews like we are today. But there are scores. There are football games we got to talk about. There are things actually happening. We're interested to hear. I'm interested to hear. Sam may not be, but I'm definitely. And they're broadcasting this apparently on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. I hope we don't get WCLE banned like everybody else is getting banned these days by the end of this. But if you guys want to call, exactly, MD 2020's throwing his hands up already. The number here at the station is 423-614-6499. That's 423-614-6499. We want to hear from you guys. What do you think about the hire? What do you think about our take on the hire? As we get into that Big Country, before we start, I'm sure some of these calls are going to start rolling in. So if you got something to say, or if you kick back and drink your coffee, shake your head and do your thing out there, Vol Nation, you don't have to call us. We got a lot to say anyway. We don't need you to call, but I would like to hear from you. 423-614-6499. Big Country, a lot to go over. A lot of positives. Of course, he brings with him an offensive scheme that one of the things that Tennessee fans have been very, very particular and persnickety about over the last few years is the inability to score points. You can't win these football games. In an offensive era of football, you can't win unless you can score. That definitely will change. Whatever you think about this hire, Heupel's going to bring a very fast-paced, almost a track meet type offense, and one would think you're going to be able to score points. There are other questions and possibly even negatives to go over, but we're not going to be. We're trying not to be overly negative.
Yeah.
And listen, if you call in, let me just go ahead and say this, okay? I'm going to go ahead and say this.
Go ahead.
If one of you knob-kneed thumbsuckers out there want to call in and call me, oh, you're just a hater. Yeah, that's right. It ain't nothing but the G thing for this sawed off. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I feel you. Listen, just know I say it. You got the cameras on me. You got the mic in front of me. Yeah, I grew up representing the G. I still do. But this is a football conversation.
Yeah.
And I've always said this on the show, Big Country.
Yeah.
SEC football's better when Tennessee's good. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, personally, sometimes I smile when Tennessee loses. I do, because that's what rivals do. Rival fans do.
Exactly.
But, and it's not just about the radio show. I mean, the radio show's better when Tennessee's better. I get tired of hearing whining and complaining.
Yeah.
I'm ready for some chest thumping and like smack talking and that kind of thing. But the reality is SEC football, certainly the SEC East, I mean, we could do without Florida. If it's just Georgia and Tennessee, I'm cool with it. But, the SEC East definitely is better when Tennessee's better. So anytime there's a shift in Knoxville, it's a big deal. It's certainly a big deal here in East Tennessee. Big Country, your first thoughts on the hire, the search itself, and how this played out. It was a cleaner search, but I'm not sure that you were as excited about the Heupel hire initially as maybe some others were.
Well, the first thing I like to do, is do some research. So, I mean, you go back, look at what he has done. And also, I kind of am hung up on what, our AD said, Danny White, when he talked about we're going out to go ahead and get somebody for the players. And that's what fans forget, is this hire is for the players. If you watched any other games last year, what happened, the offense was very stagnant and the quarterback play was horrendous. That's why everyone was happy when Chris Winkie kind of got the boot. I mean, it is what it is.
Man, y'all are banging on that guy.
Man, he couldn't develop quarterbacks, and that was very apparent from what we were getting, what the product was on the field. But I want to see what he does. I'm hopeful, because again, our two biggest things was the offense couldn't get past, they couldn't put up any points, and our quarterback play was horrible, and that's what he specializes in. It's going to be great to see if he can utilize some of the players that we have, Velus Jones Jr., of course, Hyatt, but then again, of course, we'll probably get into it later on. There's a little reason for, some speculation about how the wide receivers are going to perform this year. But I like it. I do like the hire. And, yes, it's going to be an overhaul of pretty much all of the staff. That was to be expected. Again,
we're going to get into the T. Martin thing too. That bubbled up just here in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And you're going to have some of that. When a new coach comes in, if you're forcing the new head coach to accept people from the previous administration or regime, it normally does not work out well, especially someone like T, who's a legend up there in Knoxville.
Exactly.
So, but he's kind of, it's ruffled his feathers. The players have come off the porch a little bit for him. So we'll see how that goes. There are some things, it's not a completely clean. Not everybody's up there painting the rock and excited right now. There's a lot of questions, but there is, for the first time, a little bit of a case for optimism. Am I wrong in assessing it that way?
No, not at all. I mean, the players, they came out on Twitter with, to support, Coach Heupel. Yeah, I'm still trying to get I'm pretty much in the group of saying, Coach Heupel. But we'll get there, though.
Y'all come up with some ridiculous name for him eventually. Have y'all come up with a name yet? Y'all making T-shirts?
Some people already have.
What is it?
Hold off on the T-shirt.
No, what is it?
I was listening to.
Because you had the lane train.
Yeah.
What was the thing for Dooley?
I don't even know, but I know.
Did y'all have a thing for Dooley? I know it was hashtag Butch Please.
I mean, his own, Dooley's whole gimmick was the orange pants. But one person actually put on there out there and of Heupel disciple.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
I don't know how I feel about that.
There they go. There they go.
Swade, he calls him the hype man. So
okay. All right.
Which I could probably get behind that.
I know you could. I know you could.
Heupel disciple, but for obvious reasons. But
you'll be wearing that shirt.
No. They don't make them big enough for me. But no, I'm very optimistic. I think that Tennessee, people shouldn't see an immediate turnaround of it because, again, like I tell anybody, when a new coach is hired, they have to learn the system. They have to learn the ins and outs of it. And they have to gel with them. So it's going to take some while, to see those returns.
We'll get into expectations in the second segment after the first break.
Yeah.
Again, if boys and girls out there in listener land, if you want to call in, 423-614-6499. Of course, we're here till 11 o'clock. It's a special all-season edition of the Aubrey Strong Sauce SEC Football Hour. We appreciate Aubrey's. Of course, they're not open right now, but if you go check them out later, they do a great job of hosting us during the season, usually. We love those people. It's, as I say, all the beautiful people, all the beautiful food, beautiful atmosphere. We have a great time out there usually. So we certainly appreciate their support. But we're in studio today till 11 o'clock, 423-614-6499. Before we get into expectations, because I think that is they say for every argument, if you're in locution or debate or anything, logic and anything like that, most arguments, it's one of the basic 101 things. You got to have it. Your argument has to have three legs like a stool, right?
Yeah.
Okay, in order for it to stand. Fan expectations, of course, is the third leg of the stool. When I sat down and started writing my notes out today, we'll get into that a little bit later. It's easy to get excited, but man, we'll talk about that in a second. But just on the face of it, though, the Heupel move. What do you think, as a Tennessee fan, someone who's been a lifelong fan, someone who played football in college?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, did you have to go through a coaching change when you were in school?
No, I didn't.
So you never actually had to play through any of that?
Nope.
And you didn't do that during school either, because you played for Coach Brown.
Coach Brown.
Coach Brown.
Yeah,
So all 4 years at Cleveland?
Mm-hmm.
So you never really went through a big coaching change like that?
Only, there was a little bit of one, but that was some coordinators when they brought in Coach Wilson and Coach Collier from Chattanooga Central, respectively. But other than that, everything was kind of smooth.
So, and that's something that is, you feel for these kids because even though people want to bang on a lot of the turnover and the kids that have left, those kids commit. They're 18 years old. They commit to a place. These coaches are dudes that they look up to. They're not. Many of these dudes don't have fathers in their home, and if they do, then they're separated from them or whatever. Like I was when I was a kid. It's just the way it is. And you look up to these dudes like role models, and then all of a sudden they're canned. And people are talking about show causes and everything. I know people don't like the fact that kids are leaving the program. There's turnover. We'll get to that a little bit later. But for the kids that are staying around, as you mentioned, there's a new system and all of that. For those people in the building, the hire for Heupel. And I know, again, I alluded to it earlier. It's exciting in terms of the offensive thing. Y'all been if you're from the South and you haven't had sweet tea for 3 years, it doesn't matter how good the sweet tea is.
Right,
you're gonna kill a gallon of that the first time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If you I'll be okay. So when I was younger. I traveled. I was out of the country for about 3 years at one point. I lived in Asia for a while. Trust me when I tell you, if you go a year without eating a steak, or you go a year without drinking sweet tea, or you go a year without eating a casserole that your grandmama made, something like that, trust me, you will gorge yourself. It doesn't even have to be the best. You have no idea if it's the best or not. You just want to house it.
See, and you made a wonderful point there, because when Bailey and Trout were in the game and they were driving the ball down the field, making some beautiful throws, the fans got very excited.
Yeah, I heard.
I expected to see that a lot more up under Coach Heupel. So that was just a little taste of what we got, and those little glimpses were just enough for Tennessee fans to hold on to hope. And then JG threw a pick. But it is what it is. That's neither here nor there.
You gonna bang on him all the way? He's not even on your team anymore.
I'm just stating facts. Everybody's seen it. To have your hopes raised from making beautiful passes, driving down the field, to not being able to going 3 and out in the same game, that's our highs and lows. That has been, honestly, ever since we fired Coach Fulmer, with our expectations, they've been high and they've been low. And we're like, okay, we see a little glimmer of hope. We're getting better. Well, guess what? Here comes a disaster. And it's always happened to us ever since Coach Fulmer's been fired. And so hopefully Coach Heupel can go ahead and put a stop to that, put together a wonderful staff, and we can get everything fixed internally, because it seems like all of the administration guys are all aligned on what they want for, the University of Tennessee football program. As long as we can get our coaches aligned and the players seem to get aligned as well after we smooth and iron everything out, I think we can start building something special there.
Okay. We got to MD Mad Dog 2020. We got to take a break, right? Okay, real quick, we're going to take a break, boys and girls out there in listener land. Remember, you can call in 423-614-6499. We're here till 11 o'clock. Let's leave it there, because on the other side of the break, I want to get into that. Some of the machinations, how Pruitt was actually burned down, the fact that it came from inside the building. Does that give you any pause a little bit? What does that mean for a new coach coming in? And is that an indication as to why he brought all those people from UCF? If you go into a situation where the inside the building, they burned the last administration down, doesn't it make sense that he brought all his people with him so he knows he can trust them? You're listening to the Aubrey Strong Sauce SEC Football Hour special all-season edition. My God, we're on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We're going worldwide. Mr. 305, son. We still got love for the streets, but we're representing the 423. We got to do the thing that pays for this thing. We'll be back in a couple of clips.
Everyday functionality. Iconic design DNA. Dynamic sports car handling. Why settle for either or when you can have all of the above? The Porsche Macan.
Welcome to the big leagues, where our go-kart all-stars take personal shopping to the next level. They always bring their A game, so you get groceries carefully selected specifically for you. These are passionate professionals, ensuring every fruit and vegetable, every cut of meat is exactly the way you like it. This is plump. That is juicy. And this is lean. Order Go-Kart curbside pickup online for personal shopping at the highest level.
Yeah.
Sam's up there sitting on I called Sam earlier today, and I don't want to drag you or anything, but it's like 10 till, and I'm like, hey, man, where you at? He goes, man, I'm up on the hill. What you talking about?
Yeah, man.
He's still living in the 90s, son, just like Biggie. Oh, Biggie Smalls. Just killing up there on the mountain looking at everybody.
Right.
We appreciate you guys joining us. We're going to be here till 11 o'clock. Of course, this is a special all-season edition of the Aubrey Strong Sauce SEC Football Hour. We appreciate Aubrey's. We're going to be here till 11, and of course, then after this, you'll have the famous, I believe, what's her last name now? Forrester? Is that right, Matt? Morgan, you got to pay attention. Bridget's last name, what's her name? It's Forrester, right? Yeah. See, I remember her, like, her name was like Bridget Baggett. Anyway, she was like one of the most famous people in Cleveland. She actually knows my name now, which is kind of crazy. But the famous Bridget Forrester will be at Crown Automotive after this, so stick around and stick around for that, and you get to hear Bridget do her thing out there. The fine folks of Crown Automotive. I'm sure Steve Hartline appreciates their business as well. All right, so we're talking Tennessee's new coaching hire. Sam, you just alluded to something earlier, and I want to get into that. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think caused a lot of agita and consternation for people, those of us who are outside of Vol Nation, the thing that raised our eyebrows the most wasn't that y'all were firing another coach. That was something that we actually expected.
Well, you know,
once y'all started banging on everybody in the first game of this year, it was over. It was a wrap. You and I laughed about this at the beginning of the season. Like, well, I guess our season's done. Like here at the radio show, when we talk about coaching searches come October. Mm-hmm. It was how it went down. The news came out that it was somebody inside the building that rolled on them that did this. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm a Georgia fan. I was raised a Georgia fan. I'm from Georgia. When I die, Ideally, they're going to put my bones back in that dirt because that's where I came from. I'm an adopted son of Cleveland. I love y'all. Thank you for loving us. I'm very thankful and blessed by God to be able to live in this area. But I'm a Georgia boy. That's just the way it is. My granddaddy raised me that way.
Yeah.
Having said that, for those of us outside of all native, we know this. As a Georgia fan, a Bama fan, if they'll tell you the truth, which normally they won't, but a Bama fan will tell you this. Anybody will admit this. Ohio State, those reprobates, and yes, I'm talking about you, Carmen Lastoria. Any of these people that are fans of a team, one, that is winning, two, that has a standard of winning over a long time, three, is currently in a position where they're recruiting well and everything, they will tell you that they do not expect that their program is necessarily being run as the cleanest program in all of football.
Yeah.
Having said that, you can't have an administration fighting against your football staff and win in the SEC. It's just never going to happen.
No.
You need the admin and everybody in that athletic building to be pulling in the same direction. That's a phrase that Tennessee fans have been saying, but it's not just that. You got to have the same goals, but you can't have them at cross purposes. If you've got people that have an idea, well, I'd rather have this person in charge because I can move them better politically. Rather than this person over here where everybody, you just can't have that going on. It's got to be, I'm not saying that you should let them run roughshod over you. I mean, it's an academic institution. And yes, there is a semblance of propriety that you have to engage in. You just can't be handing out, if the McDonald's bags are true, my God. I mean, no, you can't not be doing that. If that's true, I don't know. So, yeah, but is it a problem for you? And this kind of bleeds into the whole Josh Heupel thing. Very curious that he brought 3/4 of his staff from UCF. I know some Tennessee fans are not comfortable with that, calling themselves, UFC North and all of that. But if you're coming from that perspective, though, where you're moving your wife and kids, you're asking these other coaches to move their wife and kids into a situation where the current administration, you're under investigation from the NCAA. They're snooping, by the way. And somebody in that building snitched. So you got snitches, and as far as I know, they haven't been moved. So, because you can't do anything to a snitch while there's an investigation going on. Wouldn't you bring all your people that you knew you could trust? You'd bring 4 or 5 of your dogs, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I would, but honestly, the only person that he really needed to go ahead and put trust in was the AD. I mean, the guy who hired him at, UCF hired him at Tennessee, so that trust has already been established. And since, Plowman went ahead and said, hey, I'm going to give all this power to Danny White. He makes these decisions. Well, if the AD is making all these decisions as it pertains to the head coach of football, as long as you have the AD have your back, everybody else shouldn't matter that much. But I think since they already established that trust down there at UCF, it works. The thing that happened with Pruitt, from what I've kind of been hearing, is he didn't know how to treat people. Pruitt had the mindset of, I'm going to be exactly like Nick Saban without Nick Saban's resume. Yes, I've done this all defensively, so I can talk to anybody whichever kind of way that I want to without, any repercussions of it. And they're like, no, you can't. And then when you go up there, to the administration office and you're trying to have that same mindset to these people,
nah, man,
that's not going to happen.
Nah.
And I think that's what ended up happening, and that's what kind of got him out the door. They were like, okay, well, if you're going to do me like this, well, guess what? All this is coming to light. And boom, there we go.
Yeah, we got juice too.
Exactly. Right. And he found out real quick that you're just a Bama guy. You're up here at Tennessee trying to pull all of that. It's not going to happen. I'm just being real.
And y'all were rolling somebody quick.
No, I'm just being real,
with
man.
A quickness.
Hey, it is what it is. And that goes a long way. I mean, if you can't work together with the administration, then, that's where your problems
No,
lie.
he had that reputation at Georgia. When you... there are all kinds of rumors about him getting into it with Mark Richt. He's the only one that we've ever heard that about. And Rick, by all accounts, if he wasn't going to be a football coach, he was going to be some sort of Catholic priest or something.
Right, yeah,
like
exactly.
The general director of Habitat for Humanity, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you got a problem with him, like fist fights and crazy things in the building, he had it. But we knew that coming to Tennessee, though.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean... Y'all did. Georgia fans did. Tennessee fans, we were trying to be optimistic about the whole situation. Aaron Murray, he tried to warn us. Everybody's like, whatever, you're just hating. Hater. All y'all are haters, but it is what it is. Yeah. But, right. But, that, come to find out, that's exactly what happened. And, I mean, he treated his assistant coaches the same way, especially, at VFL, like, T. Martin, about that whole situation that went on between those two. Mm-hmm. And it was almost like oil and water mixing. And I mean,
it was combustible, man. Like it was either going to work really well or it was going to flame out, and that's what happened.
Exactly.
But you don't expect someone in the building. I mean, that's some like Shakespeare stuff.
Yeah.
Like that stuff. Like if you go read any of his hundreds and hundreds of works, mm-hmm. half of them involve some like it's et tu brute.
Yes.
Oh!
Well, here,
like oh.
You kind of alluded to it earlier when you were talking about pretty much a winning program, and they know how to cover stuff up.
Yeah, no, and you need people to be covering stuff up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you go ahead and talk to those people that's trying to cover it up any kind of way, they're like, I ain't doing it no more.
That's true, man. And that's true. Yeah. Like if you go get your COVID shot, are you gonna talk junk to the nurse?
No, not at all.
Yeah. If when you go get your car fixed on, you talk junk to the mechanic.
Nah.
You call his mama a name?
Nah, that ain't happening.
That ain't happening.
So what ended up happening? They were like, "Hey, look at this. Go to location here, here, and here,
Click
and
cloud.
You'll find everything you need. I'm gonna holler at y'all." That's kind of what happened. Right? Exactly.
Are there buses in Northern Alabama? Because that's where you're going.
Well, he's going to New York now. So.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, everybody's leaving. Even still, that former.
And we'll get into that too. Again, we got Blake Topmeyer here at the bottom of the hour, just in a couple of minutes from the Knoxville News Sentinel. He's going to give us the inside heat and take on kind of the vibe going on up there in Knoxville. I'm very interested to hear from him.
Yeah.
Maybe he might even drop some knowledge on how he heard this was going down. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I read from the UCF side is that Pruitt coming out. And I'm going to bring this up with Blake Topmeyer here in a couple of minutes. Pruitt and his attorney are accusing this being a thing that's been in the works for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month. And what's interesting is that the UCF people, once Danny White was hired 2 weeks ago or whenever that was, started predicting. I went back and read some of these articles on the UCF side. They were predicting that Heupel was already the guy.
Yeah.
That had been in the works once Danny White got the hire. I find that incredibly interesting. If it maybe it's one of those things where the search firm went out and cast a wide net, they didn't get the people they wanted, and he came back and said, "Well, look, if we're gonna get Chadwell, I might as well get my own guy that I know will do it right, and we can win."
Right. Oh, exactly. And I think, what ended up happening there was he tried to go ahead and appease the fans. So, here we go. We talked to this guy. And, of course, Tennessee being crazy like we are, we track the planes. It is what it is. But
man, y'all love planes, man.
It is. I'm telling you, man, people at the airport sitting, putting it on Periscope and everything else were like, he's here. But I think he did what he said he was going to do. Right. He did try to go out and get some high-profile coaches. Dabo Swinney and Tony Elliott situation. Dabo was like, look, you're staying with me. And so, things like that are going to happen when you're searching for somebody.
Now, do we have him on the call right now? Are we ready? Blake Topmeyer, are you there? We usually go to break before we do this. Blake Topmeyer, are you on the phone, sir?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Blake Topmeyer of the Knox News Sentinel. Now, you have to apologize. We have to apologize. Normally, we'd go to break, and I'd give you the what for at the break, and then we'd slide in, and you'd hear us come in with an intro. But we're going to burn through that break because we know you're busy, and we want to maximize our time with you. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen out there, if you are aware at all of your beloved Tennessee Vols, the dude that we're about to talk to, Blake Topmeyer from Knox News Sentinel up there in Knoxville, is not only the beat writer, but if you paid attention over the last few months, this dude has put his name out there. He's broken a couple of stories. He's made some friends. He's made some enemies. But that's what journalists do. Blake Topmeyer of the Knox News Sentinel up there in Knoxville, the UT football beat writer for those folks, joining us now to drop all things knowledge on those your beloved Tennessee Vols. Mr. Topmeyer, thank you today for joining us. Thank you for your time. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
Great. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it because, again, I know you're busy. First, before I get into some specific questions, what are your overall thoughts on the hire? There's a lot to parse. there are a lot of compartments that you can actually open up and dive into. It's like going up into someone's attic. Like there are all kinds of things where you can go into, like there's a treasure chest here, there are a couple of paintings here that you want to look at for. But overall, the hire. What are your thoughts on the hire? Is it positive in your estimation? The search itself, did it go the way that you expected it to go? Overall, what's your general vibe and picture of what went down in Knoxville?
I thought the hire was okay, given the situation that Tennessee is in. You know, if it wasn't late January and if it didn't have this investigation looming over the program with the likelihood of NCAA violations and I think the likelihood of penalties, whether it be self-imposed or NCAA, around the corner, I think that made this probably a tough job to sell in this moment. And so considering all of those things, I think the hire was fine. I think Josh Heupel has a decent resume. If this job had come open, you know, under different circumstances, I think Tennessee could have swung a little bit higher. But the thing that maybe waters down fans' enthusiasm a little bit for this hire is that it just comes off a little bit as a hire of convenience in that, it was Danny White, the old UCF AD, hiring his old coach to come along with him. But I think if you take that out of the equation, and let's say it was a different AD making the hire, I think the hire would look a little bit better. So overall, I give it kind of a fair passing grade.
We're talking to Blake Topmeyer, the lead football beat writer for your beloved Tennessee Vols up there for the Knox News Sentinel. To that point, Blake, here's my question, and it's a pointed question. If you want to prevaricate, then by all means, you get paid to write, so you can do it probably better than most. But you referenced the situation. One, how likely is it that, because these are the questions that fans are asking all the time. If you go to the Hardee's right now, or the Rebel, or any of these other places that are serving Diner on First, any of these places around here that are serving delicious breakfast, by the way. Yeah. That's an unpaid advertisement for those places. They're all sitting around talking about whether or not there are going to be any kind of penalties, what kind of penalties, when's it going to come down, when are we going to know? What's your estimation of that situation? And two, I want to get your thought on this. We were my boy Big Country and I were just talking about this. Mm-hmm. One of the things that has kind of raised eyebrows was the fact that Heupel brought 3/4 of his offensive staff and like 2 or 3 of the people from his personnel staff from UCF, which is a big deal. You don't normally see that much attrition from transplant from one place to another. Do you think that is a consequence of the fact that Pruitt and his regime were removed based on something that happened inside the building and somebody that was already in that building, and he's wanting to bring people with him that he trusts? Or was it a consequence of some other thing?
Yeah, I'll tackle the first one and then move on to the second one. The sanctions or penalties or whatever you want to call them, I think it is likely that Tennessee faces some. I think there's some thought or some confusion that, well, Tennessee fired 10 people. They fired the people that they thought were responsible for the violations. Like, isn't that going to be enough? Haven't they taken action? But in the NCAA's eyes, those aren't penalties. Those are personnel changes. Tennessee still has not faced any penalty from what the chancellor has admitted and acknowledged are sweeping and serious violations. And so at some point, assuming what the chancellor said is true, that these are sweeping and serious violations, which you would think that they are, it led to the firing of 10 individuals. At some point, I think there's going to have to be penalty because, again, just firing people is not penalty in the NCAA's eyes. Now, if there's self-imposed penalties, I think they could occur before this season. And the reason you self-impose is because you hope then later the NCAA, when it comes time for them to rule on it, that they will give you credit for those self-imposed penalties and will take it easy on you in terms of their penalty. If you don't self-impose, then you kind of rest your fate with the NCAA, which could be a process a couple years down the road. These things move at glacier-like pace once they get in the NCAA's hands.
It's true.
And so we could see the NCAA not rule on this until 2022 or 2023.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I think we could see some self-imposed penalties. Now, in terms of Josh Heupel's staff, I don't think him bringing, a good chunk of his staff along with him really has much to do with the Pruitt situation and wanting to trust people. I think it's mostly that, Josh Heupel runs a specific up-tempo, RPO-heavy offense. It really at a breakneck pace. And so I think it makes a lot of sense for him to bring along his offensive staff that he had at UCF because, they know his scheme, they know his system, they know what he wants to do offensively. And so rather than going out and assembling a staff otherwise or diving into your Rolodex from stops years past, you might as well just bring the staff along with you that was already operating your scheme. So I think that part just makes good sense in building a staff.
Yeah, we're talking to Blake Topmeyer, lead football beat writer for your beloved Tennessee Vols up there at the Knox News Sentinel. And that's a good point. I get it because it's very late in the process to be doing this. So it's much easier to plug and play, so to speak, than to go out and have to interview it because, he still has recruiting and the portal and all that stuff to do. There's a lot of work to do up there just to get ready to play next year. COVID and all that in the middle of all that.
Yeah.
Blake Topmeyer of Knox News Sentinel. So what is in your estimation, what's the vibe around the program right now? What's the mood? Because it's been, the only, man, people are going to bust on me for saying this, but the only word that I can think of is stanky. Like they've been fronting that stanky leg up there in Knoxville for the last couple of years. The mood has not been good, dude. I know that anytime you get some change, it's like when you break up with that girlfriend who will not shut up and is running, you hear that she's running around and all that stuff, but then you get a new girlfriend, so there's always optimism. You just don't ever know. Is that kind of the vibe, or is there really sustained, is there a cloud hanging over because of the investigation, or is there a sustained optimism because they really do believe that this new regime can do some things?
Well, it's not the level of excitement I think that you would typically experience, that you're kind of alluding to there, that you'd typically experience for a new coaching hire. And I think some of it is probably the cloud of the investigation. I think some of it is that, Tennessee fans, some of them were just hoping for a bigger name than Josh Heupel. But I think really the big thing is I think Vol fans are just feeling a little downtrodden right now, and it's like you can only fool them so many times. They've trotted out now Lane Kiffin, Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, Jeremy Pruitt, and kind of had their hearts broken time and time again, believing that this next hire is going to be the guy. And I think at this point now, for a lot of folks, it's more, no, I'm going to reserve judgment. Give him a chance. I think most Vol fans are they're not so frustrated by the hire that they aren't willing to give Josh Heupel a chance. I think most people are in the other direction. They're wanting to feel cautiously optimistic, but I think the key word is cautious. I don't get the sense that many people are kind of whipped into a frenzy of excitement. I think they're more reserving judgment and saying, well, we'll give it a chance. We'll see how it goes, but we've been through this before, and so we're going to proceed cautiously with our optimism this time. That's sort of the feeling that I get.
Good. Good morning, Blake Topmeyer. This is Big Country Sam Bowerman. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. You?
Good. I'm doing pretty well, man. I wanted to shift gears a little bit and kind of go from the coaches to the players. 4 names that I've been hearing is Cody Brown, as well as Dylan Brooks. They want to be released from their national letter of intent. And also Henry To'oto, as well as Quavaris Crouch. Both of them have enrolled in classes at Tennessee. What is the probability, do you think we will keep them, or do you believe all 4 of them are gone?
I think it's still to be determined, and I think it's on Josh Heupel and his staff that he assembles to re-recruit those guys. When you think about it, you got February signing day coming up next week, and normally that's a chance to add a couple. Of course, it used to be the big signing day where you'd sign 25 guys, but even in recent years, it's usually an opportunity to add 3 to 5 guys, hopefully. Ideally, a 4 or 5 star guy there in that late period. But to me, this February signing period, it doesn't mean much for Tennessee this year. I don't see them signing but maybe 1 or 2 guys, maybe. Yeah. To me, the more important thing here is it's almost re-signing the guys that you have, if that makes sense. You're not really re-signing them. But I think that's the important recruiting going on for Josh Heupel right now is getting some of the folks that you just mentioned there, trying to keep them aboard, because with the national letters of intent for people like Cody Brown and Dylan Brooks that you mentioned, you really don't want to, if you're a program in this situation, you don't really want to have to force those players to stay against their will. If it comes down to it and they really want out of their letter of intent, it would be such a bad look at this stage in the calendar for Tennessee to not let them go, especially because they didn't fire. These guys signed on to play for Jeremy Pruitt,
right?
And Pruitt was not fired until a month after that December signing period. So with that being the case, it would be a bad look if Tennessee did not let those guys out of their letters of intent. But in the meantime, if you're Josh Heupel, you really got to be pitching your vision and what you see for this program and reasons for those guys to stick around. And so, to me, that's the most important recruiting that he's going to do in the next week is the guys on his own roster to try to stem the tide of exits.
Blake Topmeyer, the Knox News Sentinel lead football beat writer up there in Knoxville for your beloved Tennessee Vols. Last question. We know you got to go, and man, we appreciate your time. I've really enjoyed it. We'd love to have you on later in the fall. Normally, again, Blake, you don't know this, but I reached out to you a little bit last year to see if we could get you on when all this started bubbling up, and you were actually, I think it was the Arkansas week, you were actually going out there to Fayetteville. So it didn't work out. Really have enjoyed it and appreciate your time with everything that's going on. Our listeners have been very excited about hearing from you. Give us, if you don't mind, one last question. Give us a little bit of inside baseball for you, though. The Tennessee beat, and this is where people are going to accuse me of being a hater. The Tennessee beat is a very unique one. Now, everyone in the SEC is unique because, SEC Media Days is bigger than some NFL players or teams have, when they have their media days, certainly my Falcons. But Tennessee specifically in Knoxville, because for the longest time there wasn't an NFL team in this area, and everybody here loves their football, the Vols are basically the New York Jets and the Giants combined for these people. And they played like the Jets the last couple of years, which is driving them crazy. The inside baseball on that, though, as a beat writer for Knoxville, what has it been like for you covering this, having to deal, and I say having to deal, but, engaging with fans that are very discontented up there in Knoxville and all of East Tennessee. If you don't mind, share a little bit of that with us. What has it been like for you covering this team where you have such a fervent fan base? They use the word passionate. There are other adjectives that you could go with that, but we'll just leave it there. What has that been like with deadlines and editors and all that? What's your job been like for the last 12 months, say?
Well, I certainly enjoy interacting with the fans. I love seeing the passion of this fan base because it tells you that what you're covering matters. The last thing you want to do, you want to be in as a journalist, as a reporter, is covering something that you think doesn't matter to people. And there's no doubt that Tennessee football matters, and it doesn't just matter in Knoxville. I think about it in the last 24 hours now. I've done radio hits in Nashville, in Memphis, in Jackson, and now in Chattanooga. So we've covered all corners of the state because this is story number one in the state of Tennessee right now. Now, it may not be for every person out there in Tennessee, but I think
it pretty much is.
yeah, across.
People have forgotten that there's actually like a curse or a disease out there. There's a new coach in Knoxville. I don't know if you've heard that.
Exactly. It's story number one, and it has been for a month. And even though the situation is not good for Tennessee, that they're going through all this at this point in the calendar, it is kind of neat to know that you're covering story number one across the state. But it's very competitive as well. It's very stressful covering a coaching search. You're kind of living glued to your phone at all times. Your phone dings. You think, is this going to be a source? Is this going to be something the competition's reporting, et cetera? And so, at all times, you're kind of, even when you're not working, you're thinking about it. And so I'm glad to see it come to an end personally.
Yes.
You know, the AD search is over, the coaching search is over. You know, I feel a lot less stressed this weekend. It is what it is. You know, I always say we're at the end of the day covering a game. We're not curing cancer or fighting COVID or something like that. It's just a sports game at the end of the day. But you know, it is pretty stressful to cover AD searches, coaching searches, all this stuff. So I certainly don't mind that the search season has come to an end now.
Blake Topmeyer, you may not be curing COVID, but even if you did, it wouldn't matter. You're covering the coaching search in Tennessee. Blake Topmeyer of the Knoxville Sentinel, man, the lead football beat writer for your beloved Tennessee Vols up there in Knoxville. Blake, listen, I'm not going to try to lick your boots or anything like that, but I do follow, because of the show, I've followed very closely all the regional people who cover the Vols. And there are some places where I can go and I know I'm getting good information and I can use it and it'll be good radio. You are one of those people, sir. Thank you so much for what you've done. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you on in the fall. We're part of the official game day coverage here on 104.1 and sister stations for your beloved Tennessee Vols. Love to have you back this fall to talk some Vols. And if not, God bless. If so, then we'll talk to you then. Thank you so much for your time. And, dude, enjoy the off season, sir.
All right. I appreciate it, guys. We'll talk down the road. Thanks.
Blake Topmeyer of the Knoxville Sentinel. Do we have more? Do we need to take a break real quick, or do we just blow through it? Let's take a very, very quick 1-minute break. You're listening to Aubrey Strong Sauce SEC Football Hour special all-season edition. On the other side of the break, we're going to kind of chop it up, what he just said, Blake Topmeyer of the Knoxville Sentinel, but we're going to get into it. And this is going to be the part of the program, as Frank Sinatra used to say, this is going to be the part of the program that's a drunk song. We're going to talk about fan expectations and where they should be for the 2021 season. We appreciate you guys sticking with us. We're here till 11. After that, of course, you got Bridget over there at Crown Automotive. You're listening to Aubrey Strong Sauce SEC Football Hour live from the brand new station over here on Mouse Creek Road. We love you. Thank you for listening to us. So stick with us. We got to go do the thing that pays for this thing. We'll be back in a couple of clicks.
What's up with the Joneses? What do they have that we don't?
They went to Mermaid Mattress and got the best sleep of their lives. Now, they strut.
We gotta go get one of those mattresses.
Do you think their kids wear makeup?
Definitely.
3 Mountain View Nissan locations mean one giant selection. And with over 800 new Nissan vehicles to choose from, we've got something the whole family will love. Like no payments for 90 days and 0% financing on select Nissan models. That's right, 0 payments and 0% financing on some of our best-selling Nissan models. So come shop Mountain View Nissan in Chattanooga, Dalton, and the all-new Cleveland, home of the exclusive lifetime warranty.
The Aubrey Strong Sauce SEC Football Hour special off-season edition. Per the coaching hire, of course, new coach Josh Heupel. Why are you laughing?
Yeah, man, it is what I like. Man. Hey.
New coach Josh Heupel, new AD Danny White. We appreciate Blake Topmeyer from the preview section from the Knoxville Sentinel, UT football beat writer. To all you, I'm getting text messages from people watching this on YouTube and that kind of thing. Man, I do not want to see these pictures. We're going to be here with you till about 11 o'clock at the top of the hour. After that, of course, Bridget, the famous and very lovely and graceful Bridget Forrester over there at Crown Automotive. Stick with us here on 104.1 and sister stations. Big Country, you heard what he said. Mm-hmm. And we only have a few minutes, so anything that strikes you from what Blake Topmeyer said. And then let's get into fan expectations based on what he said for 2021. I'm going to go ahead from the jump and tell you, I went through the schedule. I'm looking at it. And I think if Tennessee fans go into 2021 and expect anything more than 5-7, they are setting themselves up for what is now an interminable failure in expectations every single year. At some point, fans have got to be patient and let these people do their thing.
Anything other than 3 wins is good for me. You know, it went 3-7.
Is that true?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
That was
honestly.
3-7 in an SEC, all SEC schedule, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, more than 3 wins, that's definitely a good look. You'll definitely Vanderbilt has a brand new coach. South Carolina has a brand new coach.
Yep.
We'll see how that goes.
Right.
Of course, Ole Miss, everybody's going to keep an eye on that because of Lane Kiffin. And us not getting Lane, so they're going to try to blow that one up a little bit because Tennessee fans just do that. If you can't get the coach that you want, then, you know, they're going to be like, well, here's what's going to happen.
Oh, there's going to be some talking, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But so we'll see how that game goes. 5 wins, that definitely would be fine with me. You also have to look at the mass exodus of players that we had, not only from the seniors, but from the guys in the transfer portal as well. We lost a lot of talent there, and it still may not be over. You know, it just came out, I believe it was yesterday, that Brent Samaglia, he's actually entering a transfer protocol as well, or maybe portal as well.
What's with the kicker leaving?
I don't know.
The kicker left.
I don't know. I mean, I understand him not being healthy and everything, and that's fine, well and good. But I'm like, if you were going to leave, then you shouldn't have been like, well, I'll be back after you went ahead and took yourself away from the team before the end of the season was over with. I really don't agree with that decision too much.
Okay, so here's the thing, Sam.
Yeah.
Specifically to, well, one, was there anything that Topmeyer said that surprised you? I don't think there was anything surprising.
No, not surprising.
It more or less just confirmed everything that we thought.
It
or
lined
heard.
up. Yeah, it lined up.
So here's my thing. In terms of expectations for 2021, I'm going to throw out a number for you. 72% of all snaps from the 2020 season have either graduated or entered the portal. That is a lot.
We'll be fine.
Okay, before you start the whole, we'll be fine. Yes, I know you'll be fine. There will be a team, and y'all will play. I get that. I'm not saying you won't be able to field a team. What we're talking about is expectations.
Yeah.
Now, people can call me a hater all you want to, but in my mind, here are the positives. You know you're going to score points. I think Heupel at least has enough to work with where 17 points is not going to be the standard. It'll be somewhere between 24 and 27 points, okay? Initially. Now, that'll get better if the longer time, the more you give him, the more players and time you give him, that kind of thing. I also love the fact that, you know, this could be, because it's such a drastic change, I love the fact that there could be a period of healing. Again, it may not be a 4-course or 5-course meal that you are eating in the fall, but it's going to taste different than what it was before, and you'll be fine with that for a little bit, I think, personally.
Yeah.
But here's my thing, though. When you lose 72% of your snaps, I'm not talking about offensive. I'm talking about offensive and defensive. Total. 72% of your snaps from one team to the other, okay? You've got new coaches coming in, bringing in a drastically different scheme. And so you've got 72% of your snaps that aren't there, which means the dudes behind them who were not athletic enough to play, whoever it was behind To'oto, whoever it was behind Jameer Johnson, whoever it was behind I know people was banging on Wanye Morris and Darnell Wright, but y'all don't have anybody behind them that are as good as they are, I don't think. Right. Maybe, but I don't think. So the thing is, you get those guys now. They're going to be starting, and they're going to be coached by people they've never been coached by before, and trying to do a scheme, perform in a scheme that they were not recruited to perform.
Exactly.
And you're a player. You understand this. There is going to be a transition period, and I know people are looking at the schedule already in 2021, saying that, well, they've got 3 cupcakes, Bowling Green, and then whatever other directional schools y'all have got. But Pitt's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
That's a tough ask for these kids to go out there and drop 6 or 7 wins in their first season, knowing all the things that I just said.
Yeah.
Historically and traditionally, it's never happened. People want to talk about Saban and Kirby Smart and all these other guys. Saban went like 6-6. Smart went 6-6 with Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Y'all don't have a Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to be a tough season. Tell me, you got the orange-colored glasses. I don't. When you look at that, you played football at a very high level. What do you think?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's going to be a whole new different scheme. These guys were not recruited to run a high-tempo offense. So what that means is they're going to have to get in shape for one. Secondly, big tackles in the high tempo offense, that really doesn't work too well.
Yeah, strength and conditioning is going to be huge, Sam.
So,
yeah,
like Darnell Wright, he's a bigger guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to hurt. Cade Mays, he's going to have to slim down. Cooper Mays, he's probably about that size, but he'll need to work on his conditioning to get
certainly
there.
Agility.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's the things that they're going to have to look at. That's going to be the challenges of the new offense, the O-line coach that comes in. He's going to have his work cut out for him. And honestly, I think that's also why he's bringing a lot of his coaches up from UCF like that, because they know what it takes to get those players there. The players just have to be committed to do that.
So you really do think 3 wins? 3 wins is where you're at?
Well, and let me rephrase that.
You're going to catch some dirt, son.
Let me rephrase that.
You're a big fella, but they're gonna throw some dirt on you, son.
Come on.
Yeah,
But 3 SEC wins, understandable. Again, that'd be good. 4 would be great. I don't know who we're going to upset, though. That's the thing right
Well,
there.
you got 3 directional schools, and sorry, Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, Carolina. That's the thing. You can look around and say, Vandy and Carolina, man, they're in as bad or worse shape than you are. So you got that's 5 wins. That's what I'm saying. 5 wins. If you're good with 5 and 7, then you should be okay next year. You won't be disappointed if they sneak one from Kentucky or Missouri or whomever. Then fair enough. Ole Miss is going to be tough. I mean, they don't have a defense, but man, that offense is rolling. They're bringing a bunch of guys back.
Yep, they definitely put
so
up.
I just think 5 and 7. If Heupel in his first year can get there, it's just. I know Tennessee fans don't like that, but in the first year, just take it year by year. That's got to be the moving target right now.
Right, and they have to see the state this program is in from outside eyes. Understandable, yes. Everybody, us Tennessee fans, yes, we do love Tennessee. Realistically, right now, Tennessee is in a very bad place. I mean, that's just being 100% honest.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Heupel's your coach.
Exactly.
If you were in a great place, it would not be Josh Heupel.
No.
And I think Blake Topmeyer
would get like James Franklin. Because that's what
he'd be begging to come here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's going to be a lot of rebuilding to do. You have all these players that's in the transfer portal. You have players that are graduating. And again, like you said, 72% of the players, of the snaps, is gone.
Yeah,
that's gone.
That's a huge number.
It is.
I mean,
really
Sam,
is.
when you get into that, combined with the dudes the fact that the guys that are still there are not were not recruited to run the system.
Yep.
It's just if you don't give these are kids. If you don't give these, you love that team, and you don't give those dudes enough chance to earn your respect. You got to give them a chance to earn it. If you don't ever give them a chance, then that's on you as a fan.
Exactly.
That's what I think.
Yeah. And I understand that. And then, you can look on the other side of the ball. We keep hearing about offense. Well, what about the defense side of the ball? And that's the thing. They're going to have to go ahead and establish a coaching staff for the defense that, again, are going to develop them. They're going to need conditioning because your offense is going to go fast, which means you're going to be on the field a lot more. So you're going to have depth there. To go ahead and switch in fresh bodies, which, again, we all know how that plays in the SEC. Fresh bodies makes plays. He wants to make negative plays. We'll see what happens there. So
overall, as we wrap up, what's the grade you give the hire?
Honestly, I'll give it about a B-. And the reason being, again, under the circumstances, he was the best guy. He's squeaky clean. Haven't heard anything bad about him. He has an offense. He's an offensive mind. That's what Tennessee needed. Again, him and the AD, they have established, trust already. I think it's a good hire. So it gets a B-.
All right. Well, hey, listen, think back to when you were in school. If you brought in that last progress report before your final report card and it said all Fs, and then you come and sliding in with some B-minuses, you're going to get an ice cream. You know what I'm saying, son? So for Sam Bowerman, Big Country, I am your self-proclaimed humble host, Michael Lawson, a.k.a. The Strong Sauce. We appreciate you guys joining us for a special off-season edition of the Aubrey Strong Sauce SEC Football Hour, live from the station here on Mouse Creek Road. We appreciate you guys. We love y'all. Thank you for loving us. Stick around for Bridget Forrester out there at Crown Automotive. We love y'all. Go SEC. I know y'all people get on that what is it, the Heupel disciple, son? I know I'm going to be seeing it. We love y'all. Thank you for loving us. Until next time, we're out.